Okay, I thought we had an or in there. All right, so let's start again. Welcome to the In With Over Under podcast. What? How you gonna talk when I'm trying to do the intro? This is gonna be a show. You know what I'm saying?
Hey guys, I'm not here to argue for Walter Payton. I'm here to argue for Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders.
Let's do it.
What was I saying?
Barry Sanders.
So
Barry Sanders is the GOAT. He's got the 5.0 yards per attempt.
Amazing.
The dude is a beast in yards per attempt.
With no line.
His yards with no line, no wide receiver position ever in Detroit is the black hole of football.
Detroit is Detroit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He must have had triple-digit touchdowns.
Look, when you watch Barry Sanders highlights, when they say hype, the people on defense are already in the backfield with him before he gets the handoff many times.
They are. Dude, they are. They absolutely know where the ball is going. And he still had a 5.0 yard per average carry.
Mm-hmm.
5. God, he was
amazing.
The only person in Detroit who actually had any talent. And to produce that, we could go to the highlight reel and we could look at it and that'd be all great, whatever. But so one of the things I would say, in retrospect, Barry was not a good receiving running back.
But that just started.
There might be some changes in the future where we could argue there's a better person because of their wide receiver talent, the reception talent. But 5 yards per carry average. That's telling you
he dropped some game right now. Can't even hear it. Look at that. Look at that.
That boy gets you a first down. That's sick.
I want to talk about some of the leaders of yard per carry. But first, I want to say part of the reason Emmitt's yard per carry was down was because they would use Michael Irvin to get them to the red zone, and then they'd give it to him in the red zone. So he doesn't have as many of those 60, 70, 80-yard carries.
Isn't it nice to have someone else to go to, though? Isn't that a beautiful thing? We have a don't just say Michael Irvin. We have a Hall of Fame caliber receiver out here who some might argue is top 5 receiver all time that we're passing the ball to get us to the red zone. Come on, bro. There's no way Emmitt. Nah, man.
Just because you have other great players on your team doesn't mean you're not a great player. Arguably the greatest player.
But here's the issue: is when you look at yards per game. Let's look at yards per game.
Okay.
Barry Sanders' yards per game was just shy of 100 yards per game. Emmitt Smith yards per game was 81. Walter Payton's yards per game were 88. So Barry played for shorter. He had no one around him. He had a higher yards per carry, and he had a higher yards average per game. So you could argue, he had more attempts. Okay, he still, with his attempts, he was better yards per attempt, and he still made more yards per game in his attempt. I don't see how you can actually argue against Barry Sanders being the best running back to have ever seen the field in the NFL.
Well, he didn't reach the end zone enough for it.
Hold on, man. I'm clapping for Torrey, man. That was amazing. What were you saying, Free?
I'm saying that Barry had, in his best season, 16 trips to the end zone. 16.
For Detroit.
I'm saying 16. That's what
So
I
now-
had
now-
in my career in high school
Okay,
football.
he didn't have Troy Aikman. He didn't have Michael Irvin. He didn't have Deion Sanders. He didn't have Charles. Is it Charles Haley?
Yes.
Goodness gracious! Please, I just continue.
Moose
Man,
is a lead blocker.
Moose Johnson. Yeah,
Barry
come
Allen.
on, dude. You
Yeah.
put Barry Sanders behind that Dallas line with that Dallas defense. He wins 5 rushing titles. He's the greatest running back of all time. He doesn't retire before he's exhausted.
That was always
He
going
plays
to
out his whole
Right.
career.
Yeah.
His dad
And
was
you
friends
gotta
with
deal with
Emmitt.
that.
That's why I love that what if example. Because if you did put him behind there, we can't say for sure, but we pretty much can say what would have happened. It would have been like when Tom Brady finally got a caliber receiver, an all-star caliber receiver. He broke all the records. Like before he got Randy Moss, we were already saying, man, he's probably going to be the best quarterback ever. What if his best receiver wasn't Nate Burleson? You know what I'm saying? Or Deion Branch. What if he had a real guy out there? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Not a plug-in type player. And you finally got a chance to see, whoa, he got Randy Moss now. All records fell down. Same thing with not to boast about Brady. I'm not really here for that. That's what I would do. But that's what would happen if Barry had that line. It's all about Barry. I'm not talking about Tom, amazing, greatest all-time quarterback. I'm talking about Barry Sanders.
So number one, I don't like hypotheticals. I like dealing with what God actually ordained.
Here we go.
But also, Emmitt had 1, 2, 3 seasons where he put up more than Barry's best number 1 season. How many did Barry have over 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 seasons where he had more than 10 trips to the end zone. 1, 2.
He's going by
3,
end
4,
zone appearance on a team that had no weapons and only scored probably 7
Dude,
6 points a
come
game.
on, man.
Look,
This
look, I got
boy.
let's change. We all know Free's wrong, okay? But here's the interesting one that we talked about. Who would y'all have as best wide receiver? The easy answer is Jerry Rice.
It's the only answer.
I think
The
Moss has an
best
argument.
defense in.
What are you saying, Tori?
I'm saying the best defense in NFL history is
Receiver.
the Chicago Bears. And,
Right.
and Barry Sanders was running in that division his entire career against the best defense in the 80s that has ever existed. And you're really trying to tell me Emmitt Smith ran up against some like serious defenses in the NFC East? Come on,
Hey,
dude. Like,
Emmitt
yes, the
Smith
Giants
ran
had some good. The Giants had some good defenses, but we're talking about the Chicago Bears in the 80s. Come on, dude.
Emmitt
Like-
Smith ran against the best defense the NFL has ever seen 5 times a
What?
week in practice.
Oh my!
He's talking about the Cowboys.
You got me pissed,
dude.
dude. Like, ain't no way you.
That early 90s Cowboys defense was there to kill people.
I don't want to respond to that. Like literally, like that's ridiculous, man.
Let me just can
You're
I
dead
read
serious.
out? He is serious. Can I just let me just start from the top to the bottom of a couple, maybe a dozen of the leading rushers. None of these guys are still playing except for Adrian Peterson. I don't know if he signed this year. Emmitt Smith. We're starting from the bottom or from the top. Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, Frank Gore, Barry Sanders, Adrian Peterson, Curtis Martin, LaDainian Tomlinson, Jerome Bettis, Eric Dickerson, Tony Dorsett, Jim Brown is still in the top 11. Marshall Faulk, Edwin James, Marcus Allen at 14. Franco Harris of my Pittsburgh Steelers is still in the top 15 all-time rushing yards. Thurman Thomas was a beast at 16. Fred Taylor, Steven Jackson. Like, We have not had a modern day running back who has bust through the seams apart from Adrian Peterson, Frank Gore. Adrian Peterson's was mostly talent. Frank Gore's was mostly the fact that he could play forever. Let's not stick to this identification of pure stats when we compare these guys. When we look at those top 15, these are all old names who may or may not be as good as the others, but they played in a different era. Emmitt Smith played in a different era, and he played for a really long time. I'm just not wanting to look at his stats and go, oh yeah, Emmitt Smith, because he had all the yards and the touchdowns. He's the best player. Just like I'm not going to turn around and look at Aaron Rodgers and go, oh, he has all the touchdowns and all the passing yards. He's the best
Or
player.
LeBron.
We all know.
Or LeBron James.
Or LeBron. We all know. This is going to hurt me. Do not hold this against me. Tom Brady is the GOAT.
That's right.
He's the GOAT.
That's right. I'm not holding nothing against you, brother. You know what I'm saying? I'll even give you
But-
one of these. Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to say it out loud, but I'll nod.
What? What you say, Free?
I said, I'm not going to say it out loud, but I'll nod.
No. I can't. My screen's down. I got to hear you, brother. What'd you say? I'll add some audio for that. All right.
Is the GOAT. Absolutely GOAT. Is Aaron Rodgers potentially the more physically capable quarterback who may have some better statistics? Sure, he might. But Tom Brady has done what he needed to do where it was supposed to be done. So let's stop and apply that same perspective to a running back. A running back has to produce when they are handed the ball. How do they produce when they're handed the ball?
Rose again.
Smith had the better line. He had less yards per carry and less yards per game than Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders, when the ball was in his hands, did better than any running back that has ever existed. And that's you have to end the conversation there.
Yeah, I agree.
Number
I agree.
one,
So no, we're in the conversation there because Tori says so, man.
he didn't do it better. Jim Brown had 5.2 per carry.
Well, he's number 2 then. Emmitt's even further down then. I mean, Emmitt's 3.
Wait, tomorrow.
I just wanna say that.
Are we arguing now for Jim Brown being the best quarterback?
No, Jamal Charles.
I'll enter into that conversation too.
Jamal
Yeah, I was saying we can go there. You know what I'm saying?
had 5.4.
All you're doing is hurting Emmitt Smith's
No.
standing right now. Free. You're lowering Emmitt by the second.
Number one, I'm asking, is Jamal Charles the best because he had 5.4 yards per carry? And number two, I want to say on that, I want to say Barry had a lot more room ahead of him.
What?
He had farther down to run.
He
And
had
it didn't always have
when they
70,
said height,
80 yards to run.
When they said
with
height,
that argument.
when they said height, the linebacker
He
was
said-
the other team was right there next to him when he got the ball. Like when he got the
Torrey
ball,
said-
the guy said, hey, what's going on with you? Like all in his ear, whispering sweet nothings to his ear before he got the handoff, bro. Don't give me this more to run. He had more to dodge. He had more people after him.
I am going with the argument Torrey said. Did they produce with the ball in their hands? Obviously, Emmitt did because he had, 60 more touchdowns than Barry? 60? 65? 66? Something like that? That's a lot of trips to the end zone. And just
Didn't
because
earlier say Irvin got into the end zone? No, hold on, time out. Earlier,
end zone?
question for you though, Free. Earlier, didn't you say that a lot of Emmitt didn't get the chance to run all these big plays because they had Irvin and Irvin got them to the red zone, right?
I did say
That's
that.
what you said earlier, right?
That was one of their ways of getting to the end zone, yes.
But you said it earlier. So now you're discrediting it because he had no one to carry the 60 yards of it to get him down there and make the touchdown easy. He didn't have that. He didn't have a Hall of Famer on the outside who can say, hey, just get me close to the end zone, I'll do the rest. He didn't have that. So now you're knocking Barry because he didn't have a Hall of Fame receiver and a Hall of Fame quarterback. And I think Moose is in the Hall of Fame too, and the Hall of Fame fullback. I think Novacek, the tight end, is in the Hall of Fame also, and the Hall of Fame tight end. And I think on the offensive line, there's probably 2 or 3 Hall of Famers also. So he didn't have, let's just say, a basketball team worth of Hall of Famers with him to make it easy. Is that what you're saying?
I am
It's the
saying
LeBron James of NFL running backs.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm saying is, when you had Westbrook and you had Harden on 2 different teams, both of them were lighting it up and doing Hall of Fame numbers every night. You put them on a team together, it was one or the other is going to do a lot better.
This is football, bro. And
There's only one ball. The ball can only go to one guy at a time.
They're the same position, though, bro. Like I get what they're trying to say, but on a sports show that we both know that you get 2 people in the same position, yes, it's conflict. Yes, you're right. So we're not talking about the same position. We're talking about positions that offset and balance each other.
The ball
to where
goes to one guy.
If you have a great receiver and quarterback, it makes the tailback's job a lot easier. Not you got 2 point guards and you're like, oh my God, there's one ball. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't do that.
What you're saying.
You know, who do y'all think?
Just because you have a Hall
We're
of
never
Fame
going to get you to admit the truth.
Let's go back to the list. Can you name one Hall of Fame quarterback or wide receiver for these players? We'll skip Emmitt Smith because he's got 2 of them. Walter Payton.
No.
Same quarterback, wide receiver. Frank Gore. He played with a Hall of Fame quarterback, wide receiver.
At this point.
He didn't play with a Hall of Fame quarterback or wide receiver either. Adrian Peterson. He didn't play with a Hall of Fame quarterback or wide receiver. Adrian Peterson. He didn't play with a Hall of Fame quarterback or wide receiver. Curtis Martin. Him neither. LaDainian Tomlinson.
He's killing you right now.
He played with what's-his-face for a while.
He's killing you right now.
Neither. Jerome Bettis. Played with Ben Roethlisberger, which Ben Roethlisberger will be a Hall of Fame wide receiver. And he played a little bit with Hines Ward, who might make the Hall of Fame. And Jim Brown, Marshall Faulk is 12th. That's the first person we start seeing. Oh, that dude played with some Hall of Fame
Ben
players.
Roethlisberger was way up there. Are you talking down on Ben? Is he not a Hall of Fame?
Bettis only played with him a couple of years. Edwin James, he played with some Hall of Fame players for a couple of years. Marcus Allen.
Harrison.
And then, man, goodness gracious, at 15, Franco Harris is the first person you're like, oh, he played with multiple. 15 is where Franco Harris lands, where he's like, oh, he played with a Hall of Fame quarterback and a Hall of Fame, 2 Hall of Fame wide receivers. 15. I'm not speaking against Emmitt Smith. I think he's an amazing quarterback. I think he is an incredible athlete, totally worthy of praise. But come on, let's talk about him seriously. He played with serious talent that most of the other guys in the top 15 did not play with at all.
Correct.
And that's just with like skill talent. We're not even comparing line talent. That offensive line from the Dallas Cowboys in the 90s is one of the best offensive lines that
ever.
We'll have that GOAT conversation.
It's ridiculously good.
So look, this is just going back to my question I asked earlier, right? Could we use that same logic about Jerry Rice? Montana, considered one of the greatest of all time. John Taylor, I don't know if he's in the Hall of Fame, but he should be. Roger Craig, Hall of Fame, one of the best. I think probably the first, but I won't say that. I'm not sure. Pass catching running back was a monster in the backfield. I'm just saying in regards to the Moss conversation for greatest wide receiver. Could that
Have
argue?
that conversation.
Huh?
We need to have that conversation.
So when we have it, remember, I just want us to remember this part right here. You know what I'm saying? Because
offensive line makes as big a difference for wide receivers as it does for offensive linemen.
yes, it does.
I would say, wide receiver talent clearly makes a difference. But I think it would be appropriate for us to recognize that the NFL changes, the dynamics change. Jerry Rice lived in the age of a West Coast offense coming into the NFL and changing the NFL. And that's not to make any. And they were. He did, and so I don't want to make light of what he did. I think he is, as much as I don't want to agree with it, I think he is the GOAT. But we need to acknowledge we will not see somebody in the NFL probably ever again come close to Emmitt Smith's running records. Play as long because we don't run as often because of all of these things.
Yeah.
That's why when I read through the top 15 of the rushing leaders, these boys ain't still playing.
Yeah. And it's not because of talent, like you say, it's because of years played and because a new style of NFL. So it's not as if it's just talent, as Free wants us to think. It's literally years played.
When did I say that? And
now you had to be a pass catching running back. You can't. No one's just handing the ball off no more. So it's more so like the league changed. Then his stats are so amazing. Right, Free?
We're gonna have to ask ourselves. I'm gonna give it to Free, but we have to ask ourselves: at what point do we evaluate pass catching, receptive yards, in the best running back to counterbalance with rushing yards? I've got 3 people who are currently playing in the NFL. Frank Gore, number 3 in rushing yards. Adrian Peterson, number 5 in rushing yards. LaShawn McCoy, 22 in rushing yards. You want to know who's right underneath LaShawn McCoy? Warwick Dunn and Ricky Waters. These guys ain't playing.
No.
Like, they're not going to play. We know they're not playing. They've already gone off the way because they've been left behind in a different age. So what do we say about what the running back position in the NFL today is about? It's not purely about rushing yards. And so one of the reasons why I would argue for Barry Sanders being the better running back of our generation and of the league is we're going to have to own up to the reality that someone might pass Barry Sanders because of their pass catching ability. And they may not have the running stats that Free wants to quote from Emmitt Smith. Dude might just be a great pass catching running back, and he's going to be a better running back historically. I think we have to come to grips with that's the way the league is going.
I agree. I think Ezekiel Elliott is one day going to pass Emmitt Smith and Barry Sanders.
I can't stand you, bro. I can't stand you.
Cowboy. Here we go. From one cowboy to another.
No, I agree. And it's why I make.
Hey, you think Cowboys making the playoffs this year?
It's our year. We're going to win the Super Bowl. It's
a similar conversation. I just want to hear him say it.
It's a similar conversation.
I knew you were going to say that. I just want to hear you say it.
It's our year. Put me down. I'm on it. I have a similar conversation about tight ends because people keep telling me that Jason Witten is not one of the greatest tight ends of all time because his receiving yards. Shut up, Lex. his receiving yards aren't anywhere close to the the top